What's going on, everyone? This is the Derf, and today I'm starting a two-part video series centered around a Titan exotic piece, Stronghold. In this video series, I'm going to go through different ways that you can use this to help boost your fire team, get you through end game type activities while being an extremely supportive player, while also being able to tank the battlefield. This build has tons of damage potential, the ability to absorb damage at an insane rate and protecting your fire team, enabling them to deal their damage and get you from start to finish with as little resistance as possible. This build is going to have tons of orbs of power, tons of super energy regeneration, and a way to block and refract damage to your enemies. So if you've been looking for a Titan build to help your fire team get to the end of endgame activities, this is the build for you. If you also find yourself dying a lot as a Titan and you're looking for a build that's going to give you extremely high damage resistance, again, this is going to be the build for you. So if you guys do find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who is looking for a great Titan build, or maybe someone who is trying to start a Titan but doesn't know what to spec into to immediately make themselves viable in any fire team that they may be a part of, please consider sharing this video with them or sending them my way. I want to help as many people as possible. So without further delay, let's get on into it. For our Prismatic Titan build setup, the super of choice that I'm personally using is Glacial Quake. Now theoretically you can switch this out for any of these other ones. Probably the best ones to pick would either be Glacial Quake for its freezing ability, or the Blade Fury for its suspension ability. Either way, you can stun different champs with both of those, but I personally have just not gotten over Glacial Quake since last season, so I'm using that as an excuse to put this on. But realistically, I mean, any of these supers that you prefer would work best. Just the roaming supers tend to be the fastest regenerating for the playstyle that we're going to be using. For abilities, I recommend putting on Rally Barricade and Strafe Lift. Frenzied Blade, because we can get the stacking charges. And I also recommend using either the Suppressor Grenade, the Pulse Grenade, or the Shackle Grenade. Now, each of these has different functionality. The Pulse Grenade is nice because it doesn't bounce. Same with the Glacial Grenade if that's your personal preference. The Pulse Grenade is nice because it generates light energy, but the Suppressor Grenade also stuns overload champions. So not that you necessarily need that with this build, because we have a fix for that that's pretty universally known. But if you want a different light energy grenade, the Pulse Grenade is certainly awesome as well. Shackle Grenade, of course, is nice because you can suspend a group of enemies and then just mow them down real quick. So either way you want to go, you really can't go wrong. For aspects, we're going to roll with Consecration and Knockout. Consecration, even though it's gotten a nerf, it's really only going to be noticeable if you're trying to slam one single enemy. When you use Consecration in a group of 2 or 3 or 4 enemies, even if all 4 of them are extremely beefy, the debuff that this got was essentially, I think it came out to like 15 or 20% off of its extremely high potency. So are you really feeling it when you're using it as it's intended, not just to kill one enemy? I don't really think you are. And oh, by the way, all the scorched targets you do double hit are going to ignite, which is going to, of course, help you stun unstoppable champions. Knockout is a staple in most Titan builds. The main takeaway from Knockout is going to be the amplified portion of it, as well as increasing your melee range and damage for a short time. You also increase the amount of health that you restore when you defeat targets with melee attacks. So the way that you're going to work this build, because it's going to be a melee style heavy build, is going to be trying to get Transcendence or your super as fast as possible. Whichever one that you get first, go ahead and use it. And then once you get Transcendence, go ahead and pop that and you will have increased regen on your consecration so you can then spam damage as well as still continue to block damage with your sword with our exotic armor, which we'll be getting to here in a second. For fragments, fairly standard setup. This is going to be pretty normal on most Titan builds, I think. Facet of purpose is going to be first up on the list. I want to pick up my orb of power and get my frost armor. If I'm going to be tanking like crazy, then I need to have the ability to resist damage as much as possible. So picking up my orb of power grants me frost armor. Of course, as you pick up continued orbs of power, that frost armor stack grows, thereby increasing your damage resistance with the additional stacks. You also will be getting different elemental pickups as well, but we're going to get to that in a second. Facet of Awakening is number 2. Rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. So with our setup, we're going to be generating, besides orbs of power, we're going to be generating void breaches. We're also going to be generating tangles. And on occasion, depending on how you mod this build, which there's definitely going to be some options you can use, you may be generating stasis shards as well. So theoretically, you could have up to 3 different elemental pickups that can give you a variety of different things. Void breaches, of course, grant you class ability energy, which is nice because you can use your barricade more often. Stasis shards, of course, give you melee energy. And then tangles are just a nice little slap in the face after you get done beating up on enemies, on the next group of enemies that you're going after. Next up is going to be Facet of Protection. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While transcendent, the effect is increased. This, of course, no surprise if you're going to be the tank of your group. If you are running solo, Facet of Protection increasingly is important. But when we're building a Titan with the assumption that we're going to be leading the charge into the battle, we're the grunt, we're the power, we're the muscle, whatever you want to term it as, being able to resist damage, being able to take the brunt of the damage, being able to get hit and then hit harder in response is going to be important. So Facet of Protection helps us achieve that. Next up, we got Facet of Sacrifice. While you have an Arc, Solar, or Void buff, ability final blows grant bonus Darkness Transcendence energy. Now this one you guys may debate me on, simply because we are going to be switching between Darkness energy and light energy weapons on a regular frequency. But with the aspects that we have picked, you are going to have arc buffs amplified. But I think this is going to be your play here because you're going to be amplified above all else. And even though you're going to be using darkness energy weapons to deal with tankier enemies or possibly even a group of enemies, I think the darkness transcendence energy is going to be harder to come by if you are trying to kind of play safe as well as be aggressive. Last but not least is going to be Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. This is a staple in just about every single one of my builds. Actually, a lot of these fragments are because they pair well so nicely with the way that I play the game and the way a lot of Guardians play their game. But we want our melee back as fast as possible. We also want our grenade back as fast as possible. And since we're going to be switching between light and darkness weapons on a regular basis, depending on what activity or where in certain activities we find ourselves, this is nice because you're going to get one or the other ability back extremely quickly, or both. It just really depends on what you're doing. For armor stats, I recommend speccing into resilience, strength, and then discipline in that order. Resilience, of course, helps your cooldown of your class ability. Strength is the cooldown for your melee, and we want to try to have as many charges of melee at a time as possible, even while using it frequently. And then your grenade is the cherry on top. You don't want to be waiting 2 minutes to get your grenade back. Not that I necessarily think you would be anyways with this build, but the intellect doesn't matter because, it's a roaming super. You're going to be generating a ton of damage anyways, so you're going to get it back quickly, which is why I suggested roaming supers as your super of choice. And the recovery doesn't really matter. I recommend just keeping every stat that you're not entirely focused on at a T3 or above. That way you don't get penalized for dipping below that. For weapons, I'm going to go through what I have set up right on your screen right now. And then after I tell you why we've got what I've got, we'll talk about possible substitutes and how you can switch it up for your character or your playstyle or the activity, which is really going to dictate how you do this. In the kinetic slot, I've got scatter signal. I am using this to stun unstoppable champions. The reason I have scatter signal and not Tinasha's mastery right now is there is, at least for me, there is a bug where using Tinasha's mastery does not pierce the shields of the taken unstoppables. So I have a clip that I'm going to show right here. And as you see, even though I was firing it at that taken, I was unable to deal damage as well as freeze that taken. So normally I would recommend Tinasha's mastery. It can handle all champs, but for whatever reason, it's not working, at least in the lost sector that I'm running. So again, that might just be a bug. I have no idea. Maybe that is a known issue that's going to get fixed on reset. It doesn't matter. I can't rely on Tinasha's mastery for barriers, obviously, and I can't rely on it to stun the unstoppables because it won't go through their shields, at least for taken. For unshielded unstoppables that aren't carrying around some hardware, this will probably be fine too. But the scatter signal still hits like a truck. The surge this week is void and strand anyways, so I'm not really doing myself a disservice by running the scatter signal. The Le Monarch is going to be our weapon of choice. The reason Le Monarch works here is because there's going to be times that you're going to be firing from a distance. Your main play when you get up close and personal with a group of enemies is going to be melee style gameplay anyways. So the Le Monarch is nice for flying units, boss tick damage, champ tick damage, as well as the intrinsic to stun overloads. Abysmal Edge. This is what we're going to talk about right here. Abysmal Edge, of course, comes from the Nether Arena. Now, there are definitely videos out there that talk about Abysmal Edge, that talks about other swords, things you can do with Titans. I mean, the stuff I'm going over is not really necessarily, groundbreaking or new to the savvy vets out there. But if you've never played with a Titan build like this before, there is a perk that comes on select weapons called the Flash Counter. The Flash Counter is the perk that you want if you are going to be running this build. Blocking damage from raising your guard emits a short-range blast that disorients targets. Ammo reserves increase. So not only do you have increased ammo reserves, but the short-range blast that disorients targets, I don't have enough time to show you all the different variations that this thing works, but just trust me. Walk around with your guard up and go in, just walk up to a group of however many enemies you can, like the biggest group of enemies you can find, put your guard up and watch Flash Counter do its bidding. And if you have it enhanced, of course, it's going to be a little bit more powerful of a blast, a little bit longer range, and a little bit better ammo reserves. So this is the play style for very, very sweaty GMs. This is the play style for extremely tough onslaughts or endgame activity that's very ad dense, where you find health to be at a premium and or your ability to stay alive be at a premium. Flash Counter helps you emit damage while blocking damage and protecting yourselves and your allies. You want the Balance Guard, and you also want the Hungry Edge. The Hungry Edge increases your sword ammo. The Balance Guard gives you balance between your defenses. And of course, the best way to pair this, I personally think, is going to be with the Surrounded trait. This weapon gains bonus damage when 3 or more enemies are in close proximity. If you're not in close proximity to enemies, you're probably not going to be surrounded just in general anyways. So, and you're probably not going to have your Abysmal Edge out. You're probably going to have your Le Monarch or, if you do want to substitute with other weapons. But Surrounded, for me, works best. There's another perk called Redirection. That's going to work really good too. But your main play is So go through your inventory, because I'm sure you guys have some abysmal edges just laying around. Flash counter is the perk that you want regardless of anything else. Once you get that, you can successfully see what I'm talking about. As far as substitutes, I'm going to preface this by saying it's going to depend on what you're going into. The lost sector of the day today is Overload and Unstoppable. The GM of the week, though, is Barrier and Unstoppable. So you're going to have to do some soul searching with how you mod your character. Now, not everyone is afraid of every champ, and I certainly respect that, and I understand that, and I feel the same in certain situations. But if your main goal is to be able to take care of 2 of the 3 champs with your builds at a minimum, then this is what you're going to have to consider when, it comes time for that GM or that higher tier activity. If you are running a GM, let's just say the GM where it's Unstoppable and Barrier, the Overload's not going to work. So what you're going to want to do instead is swap it out for Lotus Eater. Lotus Eater, beacon rounds, destabilizing rounds, basically whatever you want that works best for you. There's a bunch of different roles that I think are pretty good. Beacon rounds and destabilizing rounds is something that I think is best. I was playing around with another one earlier. That's why my weapon level's at 0%. Not sure how I have 499 kills, but I'll take it. So you're going to have to drop Le Monarch. In place of that, I would recommend putting Malfeasance. It has intrinsic unstoppable champ stunning capability. And, oh, by the way, it deals a ton of damage. It'll get you transcendent faster so you can spam your melee. And because it's an exotic, you're going to get heavy ammo more rapidly. If you are just messing around and you want to know different things that you compare with this build, if you just want to leave these 2 alone, there's a variety of options, and there's more than even I can fit in the screen, so we're just going to go through them rapid. Tinasha's Mastery, of course, you saw the clip where I said it's bugged, at least for me. Maybe it's not bugged for you, and if it's not, then I would consider putting Tinasha's Mastery on in place of Scatter Signal. Mikhail's Reverence, of course, with the anti-barrier, and get one that's got Hatchling and Elemental Capacitor, and you're going to end up being able to do a ton of tick damage, and of course spawn additional Threadlings since you're going to be using a Strand Heavy anyways. The Supremacy, kind of a feature weapon on some of my builds in the past. The big takeaway here, Rewind and Kinetic Tremors. It is anti-barrier, so you can use this for the barrier champs. Refusal of the Call. Now, I'm just going to put this out there. This is not the God roll, what I've got here in my hand. This is just me showing you that this thing exists, and if you don't have it, go farm for some good rolls. You can use this for unstoppable champions, or if you prefer to run double blades, you want a sword and you want a glaive, this will pair well nicely with it because it is also, by the way, Strand. Oh, and it also has the Willing Vessel perk. The Call, certainly not ever going to be an option that I tell you is not going to be a good option. Of course, Beacon Rounds, Vorpal, Demolitionist, Hatchling, doesn't really matter. The fact that it's a piercing sidearm, the fact that it can proc with the Unraveling rounds from your artifact, it's a good option. Final Warning. Now, this one is going to take some thinking. So, if you put Final Warning on, then you're going to have to put a fusion rifle on your energy slot if you want to stun Unstoppables. If you don't, then you're going to want to put probably a sniper rifle. And if we're sticking with the surges of the week, there are 2 options that I would recommend. And actually, I'm just going to show you them right now, since I obviously wasn't thinking that I could handle this loading up my inventory before I started this video. So the first option, where is it here? The first option, if you want anti-bear, is going to be Embraced Identity. Rewind and Precision Instrument is great. It does have the Dealer's Choice perk, so you can put that towards your super. Not that you really need any help, but the Embraced Identity is a good one from the Pale Heart. If you haven't gotten that, go ahead and try to get it, farm it, craft it, and then ultimately enjoy it. The next option, as soon as I find it here, is going to be the VS Gravitic Arrest. This fusion rifle, it comes with unrelenting. It can roll with chain reaction. There's some other rolls that really make this thing pop nicely. This is going to be a good option for, your unstoppables as well. And then if you want other options for overloads, since technically your heavy weapon's not going to be compatible with stunning overloads, if you've got a good roll of Warlord Spear, that's going to be appropriate. If you've got a good roll of Coronius, I think that's how you say it, Coronios. That's what I'm going to say. It's Coronius. Whether or not I'm right or not, I don't know. But either way, this can roll with eddy current and jolting feedback, which I love that combo. It can also roll with dynamic sway reduction, rolling storm. And actually, you can get rolling storm, dynamic sway reduction if you get a good roll from the Guardian games. This is a powerhouse one. And oh, by the way, the classic contender final blows grant class ability energy. So if you find a way to take advantage of that, you'll be even happier. So those are just some options that you can roll with in your energy slot, and you're going to want to mod your character based on, you're going to have to mod it around the sword, because that is the gameplay. This is a heavy, spammy build that focuses first and foremost on melee tick damage, melee protection, melee guarding, or blocking, I guess is the word. So you're going to have to build these two weapons around your sword. If you don't want to run the Abysmal Edge, let's say you don't have a good roll, you don't like the Waveframe sword, whatever, you can absolutely put in the Lament. Banshee's Wail, press to rev the blade, is going to essentially pair with what you're trying to do with your exotic armor. So not only is it going to increase damage and add shield person to all the attacks, but you gain stacks while dealing damage with revved attacks, and additional stacks increase damage and damage resistance of heavy attacks. So that's a lot of things to kind of digest there. It's kind of a word jumble. But essentially, you're going to be walking around guarding, blocking, absorbing damage. Once you absorb some damage, you're going to release your own damage. Now, this isn't a caster style frame, so you're going to have to be extremely up close and personal, but it is going to hit like a truck. This is what you use, for certain bosses. I'm thinking like Crota, other stationary bosses like Crota that just absolutely take a beating from being stationary. The Lament still wrecks even after all these months and years that have passed since its release, and nerfs and, retweaks and things like that. It does have the tireless blade, and it's got the revved consumption, damaging a combatant heals the welder. So I have not been using Lament with this build. I haven't even been using this weapon this season or last season because I had so many other things going on. But you can absolutely switch out your exotic for this, and you'll actually have the barrier champ capability of stunning. So then theoretically you could mod these for the other two champs if you want to. So I know that was a little bit long, but here we go with the armor. For the helmet, whatever general mod that you want to put on is completely fine. I recommend putting on a heavy ammo finder, since we're going to be using Le Monarch, or an exotic add clear weapon, I should say. The heavy ammo finder is nice because you'll get more heavy bricks. The Strand Siphon and the Void Siphon, you're going to be dealing damage with both elements, so why not get some Orbs of Power? And oh, by the way, if you're guarding with your sword with that perk that I was just talking about, and you pick up an Orb of Power, guess what that reflected damage is going to give you? You guessed it, Unraveling Rounds. So get your Orbs of Power, pick up the and then grab the Siphon on top of it, because you're going to be doing a lot of area tick damage. Alrighty, Stronghold Gauntlets. Let's talk about it for a little bit. So the armor perk maximizes guard stats on equipped swords. You take reduced damage while blocking with the sword. Rapidly damaging targets after blocking shots with the sword grants restoration for a duration determined by the number of shots blocked. So the way this is going to work is while you're blocking, you're going to be absorbing damage. As you absorb damage, you're going to be seeing some stats on the side slowly count up. And as that happens, what you're going to be able to do is unleash an extra powerful attack once you absorb X amount of damage. Now, how much damage you decide to hold your guard up for is completely up to you. There's going to be situations where it's just so busy and your teammates are having such a difficult time staying alive. You're just going to be out there just trying to reflect as much damage as possible and try to slowly clear out an area while the teammates that be are taking cover and or doing other things, mechanics, dealing with just other things where they can't be in the heat of battle like you can and still survive. And that's why I say this is built for GMs. So you take the reduced damage while blocking with the sword, and then obviously rapidly damaging targets after blocking shots with a sword grants restoration. So you're going to be able to just clear out a mob of enemies by simply just holding block and reflecting the damage with that perk that I was talking about on your sword. For the general armor mod, whatever you want to spec into is completely fine. I ran out of exotic ciphers, so I don't have the artifice slot unlocked, but that will be nice as well. And then I fully recommend to put on 3 heavy-handed. The reason that I don't care about the reload speed and or the grenade is because I'm not using the grenade to clear out a bunch of enemies anyways. It's mainly just going to be used for tick damage, which is also why I recommend using the shackle grenade if you don't mind waiting an extra few seconds, because you're not really caring about the grenade damage. Now, you certainly can if you want to put a firepower on here, but you could also just put on the shackle grenade and then you can suspend enemies anytime you want and then take them out with your waveframe sword or your scatter signal, or you can shoot them from a distance with Le Monarch. But the way that you have these set up right now, every powered melee final blow within 1 second of each other gives you an orb of power. So if you kill enemies back to back to back, you're going to get 3 orbs of power, versus if you only had 2 of these, it's every 5 seconds you are eligible for that orb of power. For the chest armor, whatever general mod that you want to spec into is completely fine. I recommend 2 damage resistance mods, and then I also recommend the Strand Reserves mod. This will give you a base ammo amount of 70 when you are fully maxed out for your sword. And if you're doing uppercuts, which is your heavy attack, you're going to be burning through ammo rounds quickly. So it's important to be able to get as much ammo on your back as possible so that when you do need to use this to clear out a few enemies, you're not worried that you're going to be so low that you're going to be essentially helpless with nothing but your Le Monarch and your scatter signal or Tinasha's Mastery or whatever. You want to be able to have as many reserves as possible. For the leg armor, whatever general armor mod that you want to spec into is completely fine. Focus on strength is the way that I wanted to go here. I recommend recuperation, innervation, and absolution. Innervation and recuperation can be interchanged with invigoration at pretty much any time, but because we are running Le Monarch and we're also getting light melee energy back from our light attacks with our consecration spam, I'm not really hurting for the extra melee energy, but if you are a little bit lower on the stat distribution totem pole, so to speak, let's say you're down to like maybe a T7 or a T6 on your strength. First of all, that's not great. But if you need the extra help, put on invigoration and completely start disregarding your discipline, because honestly, you want your melee, you want your sword ammo, and you definitely want your health. If you're in the nether activity, if you're not, then hey, you can put on, both of these or 2 of the invigorations, or heck, you could even put on another absolution. But absolution always makes most of my builds because I get equal distribution of that orb of power energy to all my abilities. For the Titan mark, however you want to mod your general mod is fine. I do recommend, despite this not being a warlock, I do always recommend the Font of Restoration. Anytime that you can get your health back faster, I think is a win. But there's going to be some folks out there who probably think that it's not worth it. And there's certainly going to be builds around this type of play style where that's probably going to be appropriate, honestly, to feel that way. So you could substitute this out for a lot of different things. You can substitute it out for another outreach. You can put on distribution since you're going to be using your class ability from time to time. You can put on a bomber. Heck, you could put on another reaper. You could put on a powerful attraction. You could also put on like empowered finisher. You could put on, proximity ward. Really, whatever you want to do, you can do if you don't want to put font restoration on, because virtually all of these are going to play in your play style that this build is for, which is basically being in the face of enemies from start to finish, with the only exception is maybe picking off some enemies from a distance from time to time with your Le Monarch and using the tick damage to your advantage. For the artifact, Unstoppable Fusion, Piercing Sidearms, and Overload Trace Rifles is what I have slot in here. Virtually the only one that I'm taking advantage of right now is the Unstoppable Fusion. I was playing around with a bunch of different variations to this build before making this video. So I was messing with trace rifles. I was messing, as you saw, with sidearms before I settled on what I settled on now. Make sure that for whatever weapons you choose, if you want to run a glaive, if you want to run an anti-barrier sniper rifle, make sure you have these modded and selected for the activity of your choice. In the second column, Volatile Marksman and Unraveling Orbs. Both of those are going to be no-brainers, considering we're going to be spamming Void and Strand damage pretty much in every activity that we find ourselves in with this build. Hold the Line and Dielectric. Hold the Line is a throwaway perk for me because I don't have a machine gun on here, and I was messing around with glaives, so I thought it would be probably more prevalent than what it ended up being. So what I recommend instead is Disruptor Spike. Exhaust is applied by disrupting combatants or by weapons with the Psycho Hack or Subjugation origin trait. Anything that can stun overloads is considered disrupting. So your Le Monarch, theoretically, can do that. So you can put that on there. You can take this off and roll with that if you want to copy the build as I have it. Blind Harvest, Flashover, and No Bell. No Bell, again, was a throwaway perk because I was messing around with glaives. So if you are using a glaive, make sure you have that on. You can substitute that out with what I just put on here, Dreadful Finisher. Basically, I kind of had this artifact incomplete so that we could kind of talk about the different options. But depending on how you want to run, if you don't want to run Fusion Rifle, if you want to run a sidearm, or if you want to run Malfeasance, some of these things are going to be able to be freed up and used on other things. So virtually anything that helps the weapons of your choice that you are using to stun champions is a win for you in this build. But for me personally, I always recommend having Defibrillating Blast, Flashover, as well as Dielectric. The reason that I want to have all of these three on here is because in most activities, there's going to be someone running Arc because it's super popular this season, and I'm running Void, so I want to make sure I have my Void stuff on here. But I always want to be able to generate Bolt Charge from stunning champions so I can get amplified, which means I'm basically going to be running around the battlefield as a lightning fast tank, which is a win for everyone involved because, it just is. But honestly, probably the most important perk that you're going to want is going to be what I just switched it over to, which is Horde Shuttle. And that's going to pair with your sword. So even though, Dreadful Finisher is a great one, and all these other ones are great ones, because you're going to be guarding with your strands so often, you're going to want Unraveling Orbs and your Horde Shuttle, and you're going to want Volatile Marksman, Malign Harvest, and Void Flux above literally anything else except this column right here. So just keep that in mind. You can switch these around however you need to, and don't feel like, I don't know if the build that you have, Durf, I'm not really sure that's like, I don't think that's me. I think I can do better. Fine, do better than that. That's cool, man. Like, I'm not going to be upset about that. The idea here is just to give you guys some ideas. Didn't mean to say idea twice right there, but the idea is to give the the viewer of this video some way to kind of take advantage of something that can really help them achieve victory in some difficult endgame activity that maybe they didn't think they could actually get to. Stronghold has been around for a while. This is not new information, but people kind of dismiss how potent it is when it comes to endgame. People see the hunters flying around and they see the warlocks floating around like gods above the earth or the planet, whatever they're on, and just wreaking havoc from a distance. And the hunters, they pop in and out. They have great DPS. They're quick. They're stealthy. Warlocks, like I said, they're basically wizards, when it comes to their powers and stuff. And Titans are the grunts, they're just punching things away. But Stronghold really does benefit the entire team. If you got a Stronghold Titan with you on a GM, you got a really good shot at winning that GM, even if all three of you are very inexperienced and don't really know how to do a whole heck of a lot with your characters. If that Stronghold Titan knows how to protect you guys as well as deal area damage, you guys have an insane shot at being able to complete a GM. And that is for this week or really any week. A Stronghold Titan is going to be welcome in any fire team. So if you've never run with a Stronghold Titan, or you've got a group of friends where, hey, we don't ever do hard activities, is it us or do we just not have the right builds? This is a build everyone will welcome in their fire team 1000% of the time. Every GM needs a Stronghold Titan if they can provide one. Not every GM is so difficult that you necessarily have to have one, but everyone will welcome one because the Stronghold Titan is going to take the attention of a lot of enemies, so everyone else can just pick them off in their respective strengths. So that is the build. There's, of course, going to be multiple spots where you can debate how you want to do what you want to do. But essentially, you want to be able to build a Titan that can take you from point A to point B as safely as possible. A Stronghold Titan is going to give you exactly that. And with Flash Counter being such a powerful perk, it really frees up your other two slots to make as specific as possible for the build needs that you have. So if you did find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who has never dabbled with the Stronghold Titan or is looking for a great Titan build, or maybe just loves Stronghold Titans and is looking for some way to use that build in this season, feel free to share this video with them or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. So what I'm going to do is I have some more highlights that I took from build testing. I'm not going to be able to demonstrate how great this build is by taking you to the moon or like the Breakneck mission or even like Grasp of Avarice or whatever. I just want to be able to show you guys in a higher game activity what this build can actually do for you. And if you're thinking big picture, I'm running by myself. If you're running with a group of 3 or even just a partner, and you have a Stronghold Titan that's kind of just doing the dirty work, the second person, your allies, 2, 3, or one of them, they're going to be able to really help you just clear the rooms faster since you're going to be taking so much heat off their backs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the next highlight reel kind of. It was during, you're probably going to see some different weapons, and that's, don't be thrown by that. I literally went through all these different weapons when I was doing this build test, as well as, the Abysmal Edge, as well as the Lament, before I came in to the finality of this build right now. So I'm going to switch over and talk you guys through what you're seeing on the screen. Okay, so I know I just said that I wasn't going to take you guys into the Breakneck mission, but hear me out. This is just going to be a rough demonstration of how this is going to function when you're in a more ad-dense activity. It's not going to matter if it's a mini-boss or a bunch of Vex firing at you. You're going to be able to resist the damage, and you're also, more importantly, taking the attention away from other people that might or might not be in your fire team. So if you are just running around with a good buddy, or maybe an LFG team that might not have a Stronghold Titan already, essentially what you're going to be is the center of attention. And that's good for you because the more damage that you absorb and resist, the more you can deal out with your sword. So just take a look at kind of the different ways that you can help your fire team by doing things like this. And I know this is a rough example, so let's switch. Here we go. This is by yourself in a lost sector. Now, I'm just showcasing what you can do with the different weapons that I have selected. I'm by no means saying that these have to be your exact weapons, but you can see I'm not going to have any problem dealing with this champ. With the bolt charge stacks that we're getting, we're dealing area tick damage, we're dealing extra damage, and of course, you always got to end them with the finisher. Consecration, if you know it, you already love it. And here we go. Right now, we're blocking some damage, and boom, these guys are gone. So realistically, you should be able to do whatever you need to do for your fire team with virtual ease. Now, because I'm running this lost sector solo, you got to play a little bit smart when you get to certain areas of the sector where, you know, you could be a little bit more vulnerable. But again, it's not going to matter that much. Once you understand how to use this Titan, you know, suspend the targets, etc., here you go. You just start unleashing, throw out your heavy, or however you want to do it. It doesn't matter. I chose to melee and then use the heavy, but you could have used virtually any of your other abilities to get this done. And you see against the boss room, no problemo. It doesn't matter. They're throwing stasis damage at me. They're throwing melee damage at me. They're throwing sniper damage at me. That's going to be you in your fire team. So take advantage of this build to be able to withstand all of the enemy heat and let your fire team just absolutely crush the competition. And you can see there, it's not like I'm not doing anything while I'm guarding anyways. I'm still dealing the refracted damage. So even when I'm by myself and I'm just guarding, I'm still doing damage as long as I'm being shot at. Let's get into Nightfall now. In the Nightfall, you're going to be, of course, with a fire team, hopefully, unless you're trying to solo. So one of the good things that guarding can do is take up the attention of unstoppable champions. You can also use it, as you're going to see in a minute, to revive an ally while not taking any damage yourself. So that's going to be extremely useful in a really sweaty situation such as this. And virtually, you're going to be able to dictate how exactly you want to play. So you want to have a Monarch, you want to have the scatter signal, do you want to put other weapons on? As long as you have the sword and you have Stronghold on, you're going to be the best damage resistance player you possibly can. So I'm going to continue on with this highlight reel, but again, you know, this is just one of the 2 videos I'm going to come out with showcasing a build where you can take advantage of Stronghold Titan. You see I'm blocking the projectiles here, and my teammates are just getting it done. So if you do find anything helpful in this video, I know it was a little bit long-winded, but please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you guys for your support, and I will see you next time. Take care, Guardians.